All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here for our unschooling Q&A. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Angela Harders. I used to be a public school teacher, and I quit school in order to unschool my own kids and help other families do the same. And so I love talking about unschooling. This whole philosophy has completely transformed my life, my family. You might hear my kids in the background. They're playing with some other unschooling friends. But I'm glad that you guys are here. This is really just meant to be a time for you to ask whatever questions you may have. I wish when I had first started unschooling that I had someone that I could talk to who had done this before, because when I first heard about unschooling 5 years ago, I did not know anyone who was unschooling. And so this whole idea and the philosophy and how it works, and I had a million questions in my mind, and I wish I would have had someone that I could have just gone to ask all my million questions. So this is really just a time for you guys. We're a pretty small group tonight, which is nice. So if you like, you can just unmute yourself and ask your question, or if you want to, I also recommend typing your question in the chat. And then that way I'm able to make sure that I get to everyone's questions and nothing gets lost or missed. So feel free to type your questions out in the chat, or like I said, you can just unmute yourself. And yeah, so to kind of start us off, if you can also comment in the chat and let me know what state you're from and where you are in the process. Have you guys started unschooling yet? Are you still thinking about it? So feel free to comment and let me know. So what state are you in? And then what, if you've already started unschooling or still thinking about it. All right, I see someone from Washington, D.C. Awesome. Megan, so glad you're here. We're a neighbor. We're close by. I live in Maryland. I'm in Silver Spring, so we're close. Sylvia from Texas is thinking about unschooling, hasn't quite started yet. Awesome. Amanda from Ohio is still thinking about it. It's all very new. Yep, awesome. Megan is currently unschooling. Great. I'm glad you're here, Megan. You can share some of your experiences too. Dee's from Maryland. Nice to meet another Marylander. Glad you're here, Dee. All right, someone from an iPhone is from Oregon. They're just getting started with a 5-year-old. Great. Elena's from Maryland in Laurel and thinking about unschooling. All right, Dee's wondering what unschooling is. Oh, another person from Maryland too. That's great. Having one child that currently homeschools and hopefully starting soon. And Christine. Hi, Christine from California. Hello, greetings to you from me from Maryland. Glad you guys are here. All right, so who would like to kick us off tonight? Who has a question that they would like to know? What are the questions that you have that are most burning in your mind about unschooling? What would you like to know about unschooling? No. And like I said, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can type your question in the chat, whatever's most comfortable for you. Somebody's got to be the first, so. All right, Sylvia said, how does grading and passing work? That's a great question. So Sylvia, how old are your kids? 4, 6, and 8. Okay, great. So typically when you homeschool, you as the parent are the one who's supervising your child's education. So what that means when it comes to grading and passing is you get to determine how you would like to assess your child in their learning. Grades when you are a homeschooler, and especially when you're an unschooler, they're really not that important. No one is looking at your child's elementary transcript. No one really cares what their grades are. And truth be told, grades in general, whether they're in school or out of school, really are pretty meaningless. The point where it kind of matters what is on their transcript is really when they get to high school. So the high school transcript is really the only transcript that anyone is going to see. When they apply to college, then you'll want to have a high school transcript prepared for them. And there are a couple ways that you can do that. So you can just like create one yourself. So if you go on a computer as a parent, you have a right to just create a transcript for them. You can assign them grades however you think is best. And it really is pretty subjective. Some people do take like online classes, and then it makes it a little bit easier to assign a grade because they did an online class and you can do it that way. But in general, most homeschoolers and unschoolers typically get A's and B's on their report card or on their transcript because they're learning whatever they're learning, and they're able to take as long or as short as they need to. We're not comparing ourselves to a standard. We're just on our own unique path. So your child will learn whatever they learn, and they don't learn whatever they don't learn, and whatever they learned, they mastered it. So you get an A or a B. Typically, when they get to high school, then they'll have a little bit, they might want to take an online class and do their grading that way. With PAX Academy, so PAX Academy is my registered and accredited private school for unschoolers. With PAX Academy, one of our tenets as a part of self-directed education is that self-reflection piece. So really being able to look at myself and assess my own work. Like, how would I assess my knowledge of science? How would I assess my knowledge or my experience or my expertise or my, passion or whatever that may be in the area of physical education or whatever that might look like? And really giving our children the opportunity to do that self-assessment and say, how would I assess my abilities in this area, my effort in this area, my knowledge or whatever that may be in that area. And yeah, it really is pretty subjective though. So I hope that answers your question. Christine said, if we're from California, can we join your school? Yes. So we actually accept students from all 50 states. And we have a lot of students that are in PAX Academy from California, which is really cool. So the only requirement in order to start homeschooling in California particularly is that you would have to fill out the online PSA form. So that's the private school affidavit. And I'll walk you through step by step how to do that. It's super easy. It takes about 5 minutes to fill out the form. So that's the requirement for California. The other states don't have to do a PSA like California does. But yeah, that's legally the only thing you have to do to get started. All right, someone said, my child has a 504 and needs a lot of extra. How would homeschooling be beneficial to me and my son? Oh my goodness. So I used to be a special education teacher, and this was something that I would see so often was so in a school system, in a traditional schooling system, what we're forced to do is basically standardize education. We have some curriculum or some, government leaders, politicians, whoever that decide, this is what we think that kids should learn when they're 5. This is what we think kids should learn when they're 6. And someone else is deciding what they think that they should learn or what they should be doing without any regard to their unique passions, to their unique abilities, to their unique interests. And what I've seen over and over and over throughout the years as a teacher is that so often, especially children with special needs, they just fall through the cracks. They don't learn the same way that normal or other kids do. They have different needs, they have different interests, or they learn in a very different way. And a lot of that is normal. Like, that's part of who they are as an individual. And so when we can remove them from an environment where everything is standardized and they have to kind of fit in this box and conform, and it's a box that they were never meant to fit in, then they really are free to learn about what they want, when they want, how they want, at whatever pace they want. They can go as fast or as slow as they want. And they really do thrive. Many kids that are having 504s or have IEPs or have special needs in that sense, there really isn't any need for a lot of those things when you're homeschooling, because they're learning one-on-one. They're learning with a parent who's engaging them in their unique passions and interests. And so a lot of parents, especially parents that have kids that have special needs, report that simply by removing them from school and starting unschooling, a lot of the behavior issues disappear, a lot of the anxiety disappears, a lot of the ADD symptoms that maybe they were exhibiting, a lot of that disappears because they're able to move their body and go run around and play outside as much as they need to. So a lot of these things that they were maybe struggling with in a school setting, in a very high structured, high stress environment like school, a lot of that just naturally goes away when they start unschooling. And it's really incredible to see. But I think that when you can embrace your unique child and their unique passions and interests and give them the freedom to pursue those things, it makes their learning so much easier. It makes it fun. They learn quickly. They learn really well. It's pretty incredible. Dee said, I have 2 special needs children, age 10 and 8, both have ADHD. One has autism and another dwarfism. We had a 504 and IEP and started homeschooling this year, and almost all of my son's issues disappeared. My son was in special education. Dee, thank you so much for sharing that. And I appreciate you sharing that from your personal experience. It really is remarkable to see so many of these children that have these, special needs, and a lot of their issues literally just disappear by starting to homeschool and particularly doing unschooling. All right, let me go back through the chat. I saw some people were commenting in there. I don't want to miss anything. Dee said, what does a typical day look like? How does unschooling work? So when I first heard this idea of unschooling, I was like, what the heck is that, right? I had no idea what that was. I was kind of imagining in my head these kids like kind of running around feral and not doing anything and just kind of, being on screens all day. It was just chaos, right? That was this idea that I had in my head. And although sometimes it does look a little bit chaotic, but I think the best way to explain it would be to ask you. So Dee asked this question. So I like to ask adults, like, if you wanted to learn something, how would you go about doing that? And feel free to comment in the chat below. Like, when you're faced with something in your life that you're like, hey, I need to learn this thing, what do you normally do? How do you do that? Amanda
Research,
said
yeah, Google.
Google. Yep, yeah, that's probably my first go-to also. My first thing, if I want to learn something, I'm going to Google.
YouTube.
Megan said YouTube. Yep, YouTube University. There is literally a video on YouTube for just about anything you could possibly imagine. If there's something you want to learn, I promise you there's a YouTube video about it. Yep. Someone said, I'm a visual learner, YouTube, hands-on experience. Yep, a lot of people are commenting that they like to learn through watching YouTube. Yep. And I'll let you in on a little secret. All of your kids' teachers, they're also using YouTube in their classroom, right? I don't know of a single teacher who's not using YouTube videos or things like that to supplement and aid in instruction in their classroom. So you have access to the same resources that all of us as public school teachers were using or do use on a regular basis. Yep. So all those kinds of things. Visual learner, hands-on, YouTube, TikTok. Yeah, so a lot of you are here because you learned about something on TikTok and that's how you found me and that's how you're here, which is pretty cool. So there are tons of ways that people can learn things that are important to them. And then my second question is, so most of you guys are learning in all these really different ways, hands-on experience, YouTube, looking information on Googling. I didn't see anyone say books. That was kind of interesting. This is the first time I've asked that, and no one has said that they read a book about it or buy a book about it.
That should be obvious.
Oh, Anton, you were going to say that?
Oh,
You're not muted.
sorry,
Oh.
we thought we were muted.
Oh, no worries. Sorry. Yeah, so I love to learn about things by reading books. So there are tons and tons of ways for people to learn about any number of topics that interest them. And then the next question is, well, how do you know what you need to learn? And I really want you to think about this. Like, when you have to learn something new, how do you know that you need to learn that thing? And go ahead and comment there. How do you know when you need to learn something as an adult? Anton said, because there's a problem. Yeah, you found some problem in your life and you got to figure out how to fix it. That's one definite motivator to learn how to do something. All right. Dee said personal interest. Yeah. You have something. Amanda said, when it comes up in daily life. Carla Rubio said, because I need it. Someone else said, I'm interested in a new craft. Yeah, all of those answers are fantastic, right? And ultimately, all of those answers really boil down to two things. We all learn things for one of two reasons, or sometimes both. We learn things because we have a passion for something, or we learn them because we have a purpose for something. And if you don't have a passion for something and you don't have a purpose for something, you don't have to know it yet. And that's okay. And that is the heart of unschooling, right? We know and we understand that as human beings, that's why we learn. That's how we learn. And if someone doesn't have a passion or a purpose for something, then they don't have to know it, and that's all right. And so we just allow them to experience and live their life, and we expose them to a whole bunch of different things, and we see and we observe and we talk and get to know our kids. What are they passionate about? What are they naturally drawn towards? What are they interested in? What kinds of questions are they asking? And as you get to know your children and really connect with them and bond with them, you're going to see these patterns that show up in their lives and things that pique their unique interest. And then as it shows up in their life, just like how you learn, things show up in your actual life and then you learn it, right? Whereas a schooling philosophy is the exact opposite. The schooling philosophy says someone else is going to tell you what you need to learn for your life. And they're going to tell you when you have to learn it, how you have to learn it, how you have to prove that you learned it, right? There's no opportunity for individualization there. There's no real opportunity to discover your own unique passions because everything that they're doing is directed by someone else, directed by a curriculum, directed by a teacher. And so with an unschooling philosophy, none of that is there. It really is your child figuring out who they are and what they love and how they want to invest the moments of their life every day.
I was looking at something online or wanting to learn about something, and unschooling particularly, and what happens to kids when they want to go to college. I think there was a question about that, like what if they're behind in subjects or whatever. And one of the things that I noticed was um, just what you said about education. They're going to kind of move towards something, whatever that is. Say my son's into animals right now, so he's going to maybe say one day go into marine biology. Well, because the impetus is, or the end result is marine biology, if he needs to go through his math in order to get there, or science in order to get there, whatever that looks like, or say calculus was on the list, and I would never think to teach him calculus because I don't even like calculus. But in order to get to marine biology, he would feel compelled to learn calculus just to get to that end if the passion's big enough. So it kind of, when the reasoning was there where this girl wanted to become a veterinarian, and she learned 12 years of math. She had never done formal math, because this is unschooling we're talking about, not necessarily homeschooling. So she learned 12 years of math in one semester, and it was hard, but she did it because the end result was veterinary medicine, and that's what she was into. And so it gave me kind of this idea that, okay, when the drive is there, of course anything is possible, which we know, but it's like we don't hear it enough. And I think that there's an idea that I could fail at this, or that they won't be prepared for the big bad world. But again, anybody that wants to learn something and the end goal is something that they absolutely need or are dreaming about, they're going to get there.
Megan, that was brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. I've had very similar conversations, because one of my last years teaching, I actually was an Algebra 2 teacher. And I don't know about you, but I have not used Algebra 2 since I was in Algebra 2 like 15 years ago, right? And I actually found myself having to like teach myself Algebra 2 so I could teach it to my special education students as they were getting ready to graduate. And around that time, I started really interviewing other grown unschoolers and asking them that question. How did you learn math if you were never taught? There's no way that people are just naturally learning Algebra 2, because no one is doing this in their real life. Like, no one out here is graphing quadratic functions for fun, right? No one's doing that. So I was like, how do you go to college when you have to know this, this thing that's not going to show up in your real life? And every single one of them said exactly what you said, Megan. They all said that when they were, when they had to go to college because they had a purpose for it, right? They wanted to become a computer engineer, or they wanted to become a doctor, or they wanted to become whatever it was for them. They finally had the purpose for the math that they hadn't learned for 13 years. And so they figured out how they wanted to learn it, and they studied it, and they passed the test, or they studied it and took the SATs or whatever it was that they needed to do. And every single person that I interviewed said that they learned 13 years of math in 6 months or less. Every single person, not a single person told me that they studied more than 6 months. And that just blew my mind. I mean, it's incredible it's like when we can just let them be. And then when they actually have a purpose for it, they learn it quickly, they learn it easily, they learn it well without any of the stress. And I'm like, I would love to go my entire life and never fight with my child about doing a math worksheet. I would love that. I see so many parents that are like arguing with their kids about math worksheets when they're like 10. And I'm like, why are we doing this? It's crazy. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I will tell you, the shortest time frame that someone answered my question when I interviewed them, they said that the shortest time frame that I ever got was that a girl studied for 2 weeks and she passed her math entrance exam. And again, this is after having zero formal math whatsoever. She studied for 2 weeks, passed the college placement test, and she actually placed into sophomore math after studying for 2 weeks. I mean, it's mind blowing. But yes,
there's something about being so ready for my children in the background, something about being ready for the information as well. I know that I was never taught anything about financial anything, awareness, integrity, nothing. Just kind of like, well, go find a man and good luck. And I was like, oh, okay. And when that didn't work out for me, and then I had to fend for myself, I realized, okay, I've got a need here. And then I found that something that I hated in school was math. I love it now because I understand how important it is to my reality, and just how everything is so very important. And so there's the word trust keeps coming up when I'm watching these videos unschooling, and that seems to be huge in this conversation, knowing that humans are learners integrally. That's what we do. I mean, from walking to crawling to eating to all of it, we're just observant, and we're learning how to be and how to thrive, I want to say, even in this on this planet. So I think that it's just part of us to want to learn, and then school very much so for many of us, not all of us, hinders the desire to do that with all the extraneous information that gets thrown on us, because this is what a well-rounded human being looks like. Well, not all of us are meant to be faced with the sciences or English, or it doesn't always look like that. Some of us are just arts oriented or what have you. So this is a great conversation. Thanks for having it.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. And thank you for contributing to it. I agree 1,000%. I mean, even within this group here, right? Like we've got like maybe 20 people here, right? So with the 20 people that are here in this group, every single one of us knows different things. All of you have skills and knowledge and information and experience that I don't have. And I have skills and knowledge and information and experience that you don't have, and that's okay. So the things that you need to know for your life are going to be different than the things that I need to know for my life, and the same applies to your kids. The things that your kids need to know are going to be different than the things that you need to know. I mean, if someone would have told me, when I was a student 15 years ago, that I would have to know how to do social media marketing on TikTok, I would have been like, what the heck? Like that didn't even exist 15 years ago. So we're preparing our children for a world that literally we can't even conceive what's going to be available to them in 15, 20 years. But what we can do is we can prepare our children to be lifelong learners. We can prepare our children to be children that are resourceful, that are independent, that are intrinsically motivated, that are hardworking, that know how to persevere, that know how to discover what they love, and how to be, resourceful enough to figure out how they can solve their problems. Like all of these kinds of things, these are really important skills that our kids need to practice. And unfortunately, what I found is that my students that were in public school, they're not developing those skills because all day long, they're relying on someone else to tell them what they need to do all day, every day. And they're not building that muscle of figuring out, what do I really want to do with my life? How do I really want to invest my time? What is the difference that I want to make in the world? Because everyone else is telling them what to do all the time. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest differences that I've seen between, children who have grown up, with a more schooled mindset versus unschoolers. It's really fascinating, I think. All right, let me go back here and see if I can address some more of these questions in the chat. Someone said, I worry about my son, whether he's learning math and reading and writing. I have introduced workbooks, and honestly, I don't know how to unschool without using workbooks. Great. Yeah, I can relate. I think for most people, when we first think about the idea of unschooling, I know for me personally, reading, math, and writing, those were the three things that I was really worried about. I was really terrified that I was going to be the only reading teacher with a kid that didn't know how to read. I will tell you, how do you unschool without using workbooks? Put them away. Like really put them away. If you need to throw them away, you can throw them away. I give you permission to throw away the workbooks. You don't have to do a workbook, right? Now, that being said, there's some kids that enjoy it. Like my daughter would sometimes, she would say, hey, mommy, can we play school? And she would play school and bring her workbooks out and we'd go through the workbooks. But again, the difference, it wasn't that we weren't doing workbooks. The difference was that she was the one who was choosing it. She was initiating that. She was showing an interest in that, a desire to do that, right? It wasn't me saying, I'm going to force you to sit down now and you have to sit at this table until you do 3 pages and then, get up or whatever, right? Like it's not like that at all. It's very much interest-led, passion-led, joy-led. And so, if your child is enjoying workbooks, awesome, do them. But if you want to, break out of that mentality that learning has to look like this, learning has to look like a workbook. If it's not done in a workbook, if it's not documented, it doesn't count, right? If we want to let go of those ideas, then you just do. I tell parents, like, truly imagine, like imagine for a moment that school did not exist. Imagine for a moment that there was no such thing as school. There's no grades, there's no grade levels, there's no report cards, there's no teachers, there's no curriculum, there's no grade level expectations, there's no standards. Imagine like all of that just disappeared tomorrow. What would you do? How would you know that your kids were learning? Right? What would you want them to learn about if all that stuff was gone? So I think that's a good way to just kind of start thinking, and doing that deschooling process of letting go of a lot of these ideas that we have about school and learning and what it's supposed to look like, right? When we can let go of those supposed tos and the shoulds and the behind and ahead and all these things that are so ingrained in us, right? When we can let go of that stuff and really just imagine what would life look like if none of that was even a thing in my mind. So yeah, I would encourage you to start there. If you need to like lock the workbooks in a cabinet for a couple months, do it. Like just put them away, let it go for a minute, and just observe, connect with your child. Look for the learning that they're already naturally doing, because I promise you it's happening. We just aren't, we haven't built that muscle yet to practice looking for the learning that they're already doing. All right, Sylvia said, my child's interest is only video games. Oh, I can relate. I can relate to them. My kids really love video games, and actually I enjoy video gaming with them now too. I would encourage you to consider that is not their only interest, although it is very common for kids to really enjoy spending a lot of time with video games or on their iPads, or I know my kids, they really enjoy Roblox and things like that. All of that is very, very common. They're not going to do that forever, I promise you. Eventually, they're going to want to find something to do. They want to do something productive and meaningful with their lives. They're not going to sit and play video games all day. And I would also invite you to consider that there is valuable learning that's happening even when your kids are playing video games.
Hi.
My son is here. He wants to say hi. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi. So Benjamin, you love to play Roblox, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, good. So he likes to play Roblox. And I would invite you to play with your kids. If they're playing video games, ask them like, hey, can I play with you? And while you're playing, like, just be in their world. Look for the learning that's happening while they're playing those games. I mean, there is so much that happens, whether it's reading, learning about history, learning about geography, reading maps, math skills, science skills. I mean, my daughter taught herself how to read because she wanted to play video games and wanted to understand what the instructions were. I never taught my daughter how to read. It blows my mind. Never taught her how to read. She taught herself how to read, and she did it because of video games. So yeah, sometimes I think it's easy to judge our children for their interests. But I invite you to join them in their joy. All right, let me go back here. Sorry, got some other questions. So I'm scrolling through the chat. Someone said that makes complete sense. Someone says, I struggle to help kids dive into their interests when I have 4 ages 11 and under. Yeah, navigating different kids, multiple kids with multiple ages, with multiple interests, it is definitely challenging, but it is possible. And actually, one of the resources that was really helpful for me when I first started unschooling was a podcast called the Exploring Unschooling podcast. If you have not listened to that podcast, I highly encourage it. The Exploring Unschooling podcast. And it's by Pamela Rickia. It's a woman who has been unschooling longer than I've been alive. And she has hundreds of interviews on there. Every week, she releases a new interview with another unschooling family. And multiple of her interviews are with people who did unschooling with multiple kids, with 4+ kids. I personally don't have experience in that because I only have 2 kids. I'm a single mom of 2. But I definitely encourage you to go listen to their podcast and see how they do that, how they make it work. Actually, her podcast was the inspiration for me to start my own podcast, the Peaceful World Schooling podcast. So if you haven't listened to either of her podcasts, I definitely invite you to check them out. So hers is the Exploring Unschooling podcast, and then mine is the Peaceful World Schooling podcast. Christine said, I struggle with play as an adult. How can I get past that to tap into my daughter's interests? Okay, when you say that you struggle with play, can you clarify that for me? Do you mean like you don't enjoy playing the things that your daughter is interested in playing? Yeah, if you could comment and let me know, or unmute yourself and let me know, I'd love to have a little bit more clarity about what that means.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, awesome. Okay, yeah, I struggle with play. My daughter likes to play with dolls. Like that's her favorite thing to do is like Barbies and like dogs or just dolls in general. And it's like the worst type of play for me.
I hear you. I relate 1,000%. I was the same. My daughter had like a Barbie face, and I was like, I cannot. I just cannot. I cannot. None of this is fun for me. So she enjoys Barbies, and it's not really your favorite thing.
No, and like I will throw other ideas out, like let's play doctor, I'll be the patient, let's play baking, let's play restaurant. Like I will throw anything at her, and she's like, no. So I'll play dolls, but when I do, she's like, okay, no, they don't do that, mom. Like for everything. And so I just kind of let her take the lead, but I don't know how to incorporate that, like, because that's a big interest of hers, play with this type of unschooling or learning. It's like it's really I get stuck. Like I don't know.
Yeah. So playing with dolls is actually really, really, really important, and it's such a developmentally crucial thing for kids to do. And I can relate to the fact that that is not your favorite thing. That was not my favorite thing either. And there were some days that I was like, I cannot, like, I cannot play dolls one more second. So I think just practically, like, having what helped me with that was like, I knew that it would be frustrating for me to like play dolls with my daughter for hours on end, and I would try my best to like engage with her and be a part of that. But I found that like having play dates with regular play dates with other kids that were also her age that enjoyed doing that, that was really helpful, because then I didn't have to be the only one that was playing dolls with her all the time, because she would get frustrated with how I would play dolls too. She'd be like, same thing. That's not how they do that, and make them say this, and make them do that. And so, yeah, I found that, giving her those regular play dates with other kids that would happily play dolls with her, that was a really, really good fit. And then, of course, I would try when I could muster the strength to sit and play Barbies with her. I would do that too. But I wanted to share with you real quick. Hold on a second. I'm trying to pull something up on my computer to show you guys. Hold on. Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, so I wanted to share this with you. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this. If not, I am recording this, so you can go back and watch the recording later. But as we're talking about, playing dolls and what's the learning that they're actually doing there, this is the PAX Academy Student Handbook. This is free and available on the PAX Academy website. You can just go to paxacademy.org/student-handbook. And if you're watching the YouTube recording of this, I'll go ahead and put this in the description of the YouTube video so you can access this really easily. But in this book, I literally break down the 10 different school subjects and then how they would show up in your real life, and how you can start to look for these different content areas. And so when it comes to English, there are literally 4 things that make up an English language arts credit, right? There are 4 things we can do with a language: read, write, listen, and speak. That's it. If your child is doing any one of those 4 things, they are earning their English language arts credit. Reading, writing, listening, or speaking. It doesn't matter what they're reading about, doesn't matter what they're writing about, doesn't matter what they're listening about, doesn't matter what they're speaking about. As long as they're doing those 4 things, they're practicing their English language arts skills. And this was something that I learned when I was a teacher. I was teaching, I had taught kindergarten and first grade for a while, and then they kind of tossed me with the 6th graders. And I went and I asked the 6th grade lead teacher, she was, the 6th grade English teacher, and I asked her, can you share with me the 6th grade curriculum? And she kind of laughed at me. And I was like, no, really, like, how am I supposed to, help the kids if you don't like share the curriculum with me? And she was like, Angela, the curriculum is the same. Like, they do the same thing from kindergarten through 12th grade. There's nothing new. And I was like, no, but for real, like, they're like, where's the curriculum? What are we teaching them? Like, I need the document, right? And she was like, Angela, all they do is the 8 skills. All they do is the 8 ELA skills, and that's it, over and over and over from kindergarten through 12th grade. I was like, I don't even know what the 8 ELA skills at the time. So I actually had to go and I looked them up. I was like, what are the ELA skills that she's talking about? I have no clue. But I want to share this with you so you can have an idea. This is literally like, and I went back to the curriculum. Like I looked at the kindergarten curriculum, the 1st grade curriculum, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. I literally looked at every single English language arts curriculum from kindergarten through 12th grade. And this is it. This is all that your kids are going to do from kindergarten through 8th grade in English language arts. And I want you to think, as I'm reading these, think about how all of these things will show up in your kids' actual life. Main idea and details. This is like a really big thing in English language arts. This is literally taken from the curriculum. Students will recognize the primary message or central theme of a text, the main idea, and identify the specific pieces of information that contribute to or elaborate on that central theme, the details. Right? Main idea and details. What are the million ways that you could talk about that with your kid? Hey, you just watched a movie together. Oh, tell me, what was the movie about? Oh, you went to co-op today? Tell me what happened in your co-op. Reading a book together. What was that book about? Like literally all those things. What is the story about? And what are the details that relate to it, right? Summarizing, it's very connected to main idea and details, answering these questions. Who, what, when, where, why. You could do this about a story. You could do this about a book. You could do this about a historical experience. You could do this about anything. Summarize anything. So summarizing, that's the second skill. Cause and effect. Cause and effect, again, showing the relationship between actions, the causes, and their outcomes. Think about all the ways that your kids are learning about cause and effect in their real life, right? If I don't wear a helmet, what happens? If I touch the stove when it's hot, what happens? If I go outside and I don't have a coat on, what happens, right? If I stay up too late, what happens? All these cause and effect relationships that happen naturally all day, every day, talking about those, digesting those with your kids. That's an English language arts skill. Comparing and contrasting, telling what is similar about something and what is different between different things. Sequencing. This is where cooking comes into play, right? Sequencing is being able to tell things in a logical order. First we do this, then we do this, then we do this. That's it. Sequencing. Think about all the things that your kids do in a sequence, all of the routines that you have to brush your teeth, to get dressed, to get out of the house in the morning, to cook a recipe, bake some cookies, right? All these things that we do in a sequence, and they're explaining those things or learning those things. That's an English language arts skill. Text features. This is something super easy that we do. Looking at a book, looking at signs, like looking at what are the things that are like present in a text to help them understand what they're doing. So looking at subheadings, having charts, graphs, pictures, all that stuff. Making predictions, saying what's going to happen in the future, or thinking about what could possibly happen next, right? Inferencing. This is a really difficult skill. Typically, kids are able to do this more once they're past like 4th grade, but prior to 4th grade, this one is really hard for them. But inferencing is basically being able to make a logical connection based on something that's not explicitly stated in a text or in a movie or something like that. So as your daughter's playing Barbies, she's doing all of these things. All of these things are present when your child is playing Barbies, all 8 of these skills. So I know that it can be like frustrating and exhausting to play Barbies with your kids. But even in something as simple and fun as that, she's learning that, right? She's telling stories, she's engaging in dialogue, she's doing all this kind of stuff, right? So yeah, so I just want to share this with you so you can I hope that helps kind of start to see a little bit more of what that learning looks like, as it relates to English language arts. Was that helpful, Christine?
Yes, that was really, really helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. Someone said, my son knows how to read and write. He actually taught himself how to read and spell before school so that he could game. I worry that he will lose those skills. Yeah, so again, if we don't use a skill, then we lose it. So the trick is really looking for ways that we can encourage our children to have these skills show up in their real life, right? And there are lots of ways that you can do that, lots of ways that you can continue that. If he was motivated to learn how to read and spell because of gaming, that will probably be another really big motivator for him. And you can encourage him in that, and then also look for other ways that he can engage in those skills. Amanda said, I think the hardest part for me is understanding how my 7th grader will be able to get a diploma from high school if unschooling. It's hard to break free from the traditional school mindset, like needing core subjects. Absolutely. I can relate to that too. It is so hard to let go of this mentality that we've all been so ingrained with, so programmed with. I did want to, let me show you as well what grades look like. Hold on. Let me see if I can go back. So I'm going to try to zoom out here so we all can see. Actually, I'll go back. Okay, so this is also in the student handbook where you talk about earning credits, all right? So as it relates to earning credits, again, remember before high school, it's not as big of a deal. Once they get to high school, then yes, we want to start thinking about, if you are thinking about going to college, what are the things that you want to do to prepare for that next step? What would that look like for you, right? So at that point, sometimes an unschooler will say, I want to go to school to become a veterinarian, so I should probably take an algebra class. So they might take an online class at that point. But these are the 3 different ways that they can earn credits through PAX Academy. Ironically enough, these are the same 3 ways that kids earn credits when they're in any college and university. And for some reason, I don't know why, for some reason, most schools will not allow kids to earn credits in all 3 of these ways. To my knowledge, PAX Academy is one of the few schools that actually will allow your kids to earn credits in all 3 ways that they would earn credits in a college or university. But the first way, which is kind of the most traditional, is taking a class, right? So unschoolers do take classes. But the difference is they're the ones that are choosing it, and they're choosing it because they either have a passion for it or they have a purpose for it. So there are many unschoolers that do choose to take a class. Within PAX Academy, we do offer a wide variety of classes. All of the standard high school classes, they're all there. We do them in partnership with Khan Academy. Khan Academy is a free online curriculum, and it is the same curriculum that we used as public school teachers in the public school classroom. You have access to that same curriculum, and it is completely free. So you can use that. Khan Academy is great as a great resource. YouTube University, right? Anything that your kids could possibly want to learn, they can learn through taking watching a YouTube video about it. So taking a class, again, this is kind of like the traditional way to do it. The second way that you can earn credits through PAX Academy is by taking a test. And there are 2 tests in particular that a lot of unschoolers do choose to take. The first one would be an advanced placement test, and the second one would be the college level examination program test, or it's more commonly known as a CLEP test. The advanced placement test, an unschooler would register to take that test at the local high school. You have to register for it, I want to say in October or November, I can't remember off the top of my head, but at the beginning of the school year, you're going to notify your local public school, hey, my child wants to take this AP test. And actually, if you click in the hyperlink in the student handbook, it will take you to their website so you can look and see what are the AP placement testing centers that are close by you. And you just basically pick, you can pick anything. I took AP tests for English, for statistics, for Spanish, for biology, for psychology. They don't have to take a class in order to take the test. They literally can just study on their own, take the test, and earn the credits. And they're earning college credits at the same time as they're earning their high school credits. With the college level examination or the CLEP test, that test they can either take at the university or they could take it at home, which is really nice. So I really enjoyed doing the CLEP test myself. I took several CLEP tests. And basically what I did at the time, I didn't have money to actually buy the CLEP test books. This was way back in the day. So I would go sit at Barnes & Noble and I would pull their CLEP test practice exam books from the Barnes & Noble shelves. And I would sit there for hours and just do the practice tests till I felt comfortable with the content. And then I just took it. The CLEP test is a 90-minute test. I think it costs less than $100. With one test, with the Spanish test that I did, I took one Spanish test. It took 90 minutes. I earned 12 college credits for taking a 90-minute test. 12. 12 college credits is the equivalent of over $10,000 at the university that I was going to. So I was very grateful to have earned 12 credits from taking one 90-minute test. So this is another way that unschoolers can earn their credits. And then the last way that they can earn their credits, this is our favorite way, this is our specialty, and that is rather than taking a class, rather than taking a test, they can simply take their time. And colleges refer to this as portfolio credit, but basically this is the credit that you earn from your real life, real world experience. And this whole list that I got here, I took this from a university website. I said, what are they looking for at the university? This is what they're looking at. Anything that they've done for a full or part-time business, any independent reading that they've done. If your child is interested in a topic and all they've done is read about it, they will give them college credit for documenting the books that they've read about a topic. And that could get them out of that class. Like they wouldn't even have to take the class. They would just get the credit from it, from their portfolio credit. Volunteer or service work, any memberships in any special organizations, cultural or artistic pursuits, including hobbies. They said this. What are your kids' hobbies? They can earn college credits for their hobbies. Training programs, in-service courses, military service, education, or travel abroad. This is actually something that's really important to me too. I believe that's why I call myself Peaceful World Schoolers. If you found me on TikTok, you know my handle is Peaceful World Schooler. It's why our umbrella in Maryland is called the Peaceful World Schoolers umbrella. I love the idea of truly embracing that the world is our classroom, and we don't have to learn just by sitting in a traditional classroom, but by truly experiencing the whole world. It's one of the best ways that we can learn. And so as part of PAX Academy students that are in PAX Academy, we actually are planning to go on some international trips where your students will be able to earn both college credit and high school credit at the same time in 1 week. So travel abroad for 1 week, earn college credits and high school credits. But these are the 3 different ways that kids earn credits in college. These are the 3 ways that kids earn credits with PAX Academy. And all of this counts. All of it counts. But unfortunately, most schools don't tell you that. They don't tell you that your kids can earn credits from all of these different things that they're doing. I hope that answered your question, Amanda. All right, I see someone else said, I get a lot of judgment from family because they don't understand. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that. I know that that is really difficult when we have family and friends that don't understand why we do what we do. They don't understand the philosophy. They don't understand why we're doing this. I've had it on my heart for a long time now that I wanted to create a video, like I wanted to make a TikTok that is like a way for you to share with your family members that maybe don't understand, because a lot of times I think when it's coming directly from us, a lot of times there's a lot more emotions and feelings involved there, because they're people that know you. But I think more than anything, one, as you're talking with your family about this, know that it's not your job to make them understand. Although it would be great for them to understand, but not everyone is going to understand, and that is okay. But there are 2 important things I want you to know. You, like a person here who's practicing unschooling or thinking about unschooling. Number 1, I want you to know that coming from a place of understanding that if your family is expressing what you interpret as judgment, rather than hearing that as judgment, I really want you to get that the reason why they're expressing what may feel like judgment is because they care about your kids and they're concerned. And I think that's a really important shift. Like, we can say like, oh my gosh, they're judging me, they're attacking me, they're, whatever. But when you can flip that and like know that this is not judgment, they're communicating to me a concern that they have, and they're concerned because they care. Right. And so I think if you can have a conversation with them from that position of really getting like, I hear that you're having these concerns about the way that I'm educating my child. Trust me, no one is more concerned about my child's education than me. No one is more concerned. And really hear them out. What are your concerns? You were important to me. Like, if this was someone that you didn't care about, I'd be like, whatever. Right? Like, you have a friend who's mad, who cares? Like, I just don't ever have to see you again, right? But if this is someone that you really care about, then yeah, you want to talk to them. What are your concerns? Share with me your concerns. I really want to hear. What are you worried about? I'm worried that they're not going to socialize. I get it. Me too. I'm worried about my kids' socialization, and that's why I pulled my kids out of public school. Have you seen the socialization that's happening there? It's terrible. Like, you know, but really, like, invite them to be a part of that conversation with you. I want to hear about, what are your concerns? What are you worried about? How can we address those concerns together? Let's problem solve. Let's problem solve. You're worried about my kids socializing. How do you think that they could socialize? How do you socialize? Like, you don't go to school. How do you socialize? You're not in a sarcastic way. How do you socialize, right? Like, but really asking them those questions helps them really kind of think. And it, a lot of times, it can kind of disarm them when they don't understand, right? So, like, you as an adult, what are the ways that you socialize with people? How do you think that we could encourage our kids to socialize with other people? Going to co-ops, great idea. Awesome, we'll do that. Hanging out with other kids in the park. Oh, great idea. Thank you for suggesting that. Whatever they could come up with, like, and invite them to be a part of their own problem solving rather than them just sitting there with the judgments and you trying to defend yourself. No, invite them to be a part of that process. Yeah, socialization is a huge problem. Oh, I'm worried about them, they're worried about them getting a high school diploma. Oh yeah, man, I was really worried about that too. Show them my video. I will happily tell them for you. Yes, they can absolutely get a high school diploma. And here are all these news articles that I'll share with you too, that Harvard and all these Ivy League schools are asking for homeschoolers and especially unschoolers to come to their school because they're highly motivated. They're excellent students. They know what they want. They're intrinsically motivated. They go after what they want, right? I get that you're concerned about that. Me too. Here you go. Let's talk about it, right? So that would be the first thing. Number one, getting that they're coming to you with their concerns because they care and acknowledging that care. And then the second thing I would think is to also really acknowledge the fact that they're addressing their concerns with you because there's a level of confidence and trust with you, right? Like I mean, I don't know about you, but I've seen some parents out in the wild where, they're like chewing their kid out in a Walmart. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm a little concerned about that person's parenting, but I'm not going to go tell them. Like, I'm not going to be, hey, I'm a little bit concerned about the way that you're parenting your 3-year-old here in the middle of Walmart screaming at them, right? I'm not going to do that. But the reason why these people are coming to you and sharing their concerns with you is because they have a level of trust with you. If they did not trust you, they would not come to you with their concerns. They would not share their fears or their worries or their issues with you. So kind of reframing your view of these people that are concerned with you, I think will be a really, really big help in having a conversation in a really different way. Being able to approach it, understanding, one, I acknowledge that you have concerns because you love my kids, you care about them, I do too. And second, I acknowledge that you're expressing these concerns to me because you love me, you care about me, and you trust me. There's a level of trust here between us, and our relationship matters to you. If my relationship didn't matter to you, you could have just cut me off and walked away and been, pissed at how I'm choosing to homeschool my kids. Fine. But you're not. Instead, you're choosing to express your concerns to me. And I think being able to talk from that perspective will make a big difference for you guys. So anyways, it's on my list of things to do, but I want to make a video that will also be like a video you can share with them that's like, hey, these are kind of the most common things where I'm the one that can kind of address a lot of those concerns for them. And if you know of what their concerns are, please feel free to share them with me so that I can make sure to address those when I make that video. Because I want to really kind of hit, what are your family members saying to you that they're like, oh gosh, I'm really worried about this. So if you can comment in the chat and let me know if you know anyone in your life who's been upset that you chose to unschool your kids, please let me know what their concerns were. I'm going to write those down so that I can make sure to address them in the video. All right. Let me go through here. Oh, someone said, repeat the name of your other podcast. Yeah. So actually, I have 2 podcasts now. So the first podcast that I mentioned was the Exploring Unschooling podcast. My podcast that I did is the Peaceful World Schooling podcast. I don't do that one as often just because it takes me a lot of time to produce those episodes. And it's kind of been on the back burner since my dad passed away. So I haven't been as active making those, but it's again on my list of things to do. I'm working on it. And then I actually just started a podcast last week in Spanish. So if there are any hispanohablantes aquí en la casa, that podcast is called Descubriendo Desescolarización. And so that podcast is available in Spanish too. All right. Oh, thank you, Dee, for answering. Christine said, if we sign up with PAX Academy, do you help with ideas on play learning if we need it? Absolutely, yes. If you need any kind of guidance, absolutely, I am here for you. You can always book. I have a free 15-minute calls. You can book a free 15-minute call with me anytime you need one. I do these meetings once a month. So if you want to come and gather and ask your questions in like the Zoom, it's a great way to like have support and talk with other people and ask your questions and hear what other people are asking and things like that. And then if you feel like you need more than a 15-minute call, I also do private one-on-one consultations, and you can always book those. Those are an hour-long session with me. I do those educational consultations for any age, and then I also offer college and career consultations. So once your child gets to high school, I recommend that they actually book a college and career consultation. Normally those are $200 an hour, but PAX Academy students get a 50% discount. So for PAX Academy students, it's $100 an hour. And during that meeting, you will more than make that money back. I share with them all about how they can get scholarships, how they can hack their college education, save thousands of dollars on school. being able to get into college early, like all the things. So we really make a plan that is custom designed to what their unique goals are, what their unique desires are. And sometimes it helps to just have someone who's not mom and dad that's kind of having those conversations with them, like, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What are your plans? What are your passions? How can we earn a living from doing the things that you love, right? So those are great. I recommend that you book those at least when you start high school, and then especially when you're a senior. But if you're able to do one a year, that would be great, because sometimes their interests change. And so it's good to kind of have that check-in. All right, someone said, exactly, it's a big reason why I pulled my kid from public school. He was being bullied badly. He now has anxiety to actually go out and make friends because of the bullying. We're working through these feelings. I'm so sorry that your child was bullied, and thank you for being willing to pull him out of those environments and create something different. Someone said, okay, actually, I think I covered everything. Let me look. All right. I think I got everything. Did I answer everyone's questions? We have a few minutes left. Did anyone have any other questions that they wanted to talk about? We covered a lot today. Christine said Pax Academy tuition. Yeah, so Pax Academy costs $350 per year. And right now we actually have a family special at $600 for the year for a family of up to 3 kids. And you can just go on to paxacademy.com, or sorry, paxacademy.org, and you can register on our website, and I'll share the link in the chat so you're able to get that. All right, so that's the link for the Pax Academy website. All right, any other questions? Yeah, thank you, my pleasure. All right. Anyone else who's unschooling? If anyone who is already unschooling, if you would like to share about what your experience has been, I would love to hear about how it's been. If there's anything that you want to say to the families that maybe are thinking about it or haven't started or still like not really sure. If anyone would like to share, you guys are more than welcome to. This is not the me show. You guys are welcome to share. Anyone? I know we got some unschoolers in the house. No? If not, that's okay. All right, we have a few more minutes left. Okay, so if no one else has any other questions, Dee said this was amazing. Oh, thank you so much, Dee. I'm so glad that you were able to be here. I really do. It means a lot to me. I understand that your time is so valuable, and I deeply appreciate the fact that you are willing to invest an hour of your time and your life with me. I hope that you see this time as truly a valuable investment of your time. And I hope that this was beneficial for you and answering your questions. Yeah, so please feel free to let me know in the chat if this was helpful. I'd love to get your feedback on how this evening was for you. And yeah, if you have any other questions or if you want to talk more in depth, feel free to book the free 15-minute call. And actually, we have a WhatsApp group also. I can send that. Hold on. So if any of you are on WhatsApp, I know there are a lot of you that are in Maryland here also, which is pretty cool. So most of the people that are in the WhatsApp group are actually from Maryland, but I'm hoping that our community will grow and we'll be able to have groups for the other states. So this is the Peaceful World Schoolers group in English. But within there, if you have another group, so like if you're from another state, let's say you're from California, like, hey, I want a group for other families from California, let me know. I'll create a California group. So that way you guys can really start to get connected and start building relationships with other people. Elena said, how can I sign up for the Zoom meeting in Spanish? So it's at the same link, the meeting in Spanish is the second Wednesday of the month. So let me send you the link for the monthly Q&A. Actually, let me send you this one here. All right. So there's the link for the monthly Q&A. It's the second Wednesday of the month in Spanish, and then on the last Wednesday of the month in English. And please feel free to invite your friends or invite anyone who's been thinking about unschooling or thinking of pulling their kids out of school. I promise you, you will not regret for a moment. spending extra time with your kids. You will not regret it for a minute. All right, so this was a lot of great information. Thank you so much for that feedback. I really appreciate that. Sylvia said, thank you for your time and information, considering doing this after the school year. At least want mine to finish off the school year with their friends. Yeah, I get that too. Awesome. Well, we're excited for you to start whenever that is. Whenever you decide to start, it will be perfect.
I was just thinking about, see if I
Yeah.
can get it out quickly. I was just thinking
Yeah.
about when I pulled my son out of school, it was because he was showing some behavioral stuff that I just was like, what is going on? Because I just knew it wasn't him, but he was really acting out and leaving school. And then, you know, my husband said, you know, he was very little. He was like maybe 6, and my husband said, well, what's going on, Christopher? Why are you, you know, you behaving like this? What's going on? Do you not like school? And he says, I just want to be outside with the butterflies. And so, and he's the nature lover that I was explaining, mentioning. And when I realized that he was so very unhappy, I realized, what am I doing here? Like, is he thriving or is he falling apart? And yeah, I realized he was falling apart in the system. So then I said, whose job is it to, you know, I felt myself getting angry at the teachers, like, come on, you know, do better. And then I realized it's not their job, you know, it just isn't. It's my job to make sure that he's thriving. And I said, if I didn't prepare him well enough, and I took it all on me, I said, if I didn't prepare him well enough for this environment, then that's on me. And so it's my job to take him out and handle that part. And however long it takes, is that's how long it takes in order to get him socially aware enough and in tune with his spirit enough that he's able to be in any environment and thrive. And so it took me a minute, and it's still taking time, but the change in him, people just knew him for when he was in school, and he was only in there for about a year or so. But the difference from him then to now is shocking, and people say, oh my gosh, he's just a different child. So I'd say if you were looking at this is it's a life changer, and it didn't just change his life, it changed my life, it changed my husband's. My husband didn't agree in the beginning. It took a lot of convincing, but I couldn't verbally convince. I had to just stand by my convictions and say, you know, this is what we're doing. I know what's best for my child. And I had to be very firm in a very uncomfortable way for me at that time. But I knew that this was right. So it's a wonderful experience if you can swing it and if it's on your heart to do so.
Megan, thank you for sharing. Is there anything that you wish that you would have done differently?
No. Deschooling myself a little bit more, I guess, would be something, you know, because to be spent months me trying to force something in, thinking that he wouldn't get it or he wouldn't learn it, or worrying. I'd say the worrying is what I would let go of. That he wouldn't learn how to read, or he wouldn't do this, and he's exceptional. He's extremely intelligent, and there's nothing wrong with him, period. And we never got him tested for ADHD and all of those things, but I even released the ideas that those things were something. Do you know what I mean? Because if I label my child, then he's got to be what I labeled him. So instead of just embracing that he just gets to be different. And from my daughter's different, and every child is different in the way they do things, and that gets to be embraced as a good thing. And geniuses are developed that way. And so no, I would say get rid of the worry and have more faith that, like you said, even in playing with Barbies, they're developing. Even Minecraft all day, which horrified me, is they're learning. And you know, he was nodding his head when you were talking about Roblox, you know, like, yes, and then tell them they need to be in nature more with their kids. I said, okay, I'll tell them. So, yeah, just trust yourselves. You know what's best for your babies.
Yeah. That's a great word. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. All right. Well, we are actually, oh my gosh, we're after 9 o'clock. Thank you guys for being here tonight. It was such a pleasure talking with you guys. I'm going to publish this recording to my YouTube channel. So if you don't follow me on YouTube, feel free to check it out. I've got tons of other resources on there as well. And like I said, the PAX Academy Student Handbook is also a great resource. I encourage you to look through that. And then Megan mentioned deschooling. I know this isn't something that we talked about tonight, but that deschooling process is so, so, so important. I actually published a book called The Deschooling Diary that is available on Amazon. It's a 365-day journal to help you kind of guide you through that deschooling process. It's the book I wish I would have had 5 years ago when we started Unschooling. But that's an excellent resource. Like I said, it's available on Amazon. Feel free to check it out. And if there are any Spanish speakers in the house, I also just published my book recently in Spanish as well. I'll drop the links for those in the chat. But otherwise, y'all are free to go. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight with me. It was such a pleasure talking with you guys and hearing your stories and your heart and your questions. I appreciate you all. All right, I'm going to drop these in the chat. So Spanish speakers, this is my book in Spanish, Historias de una maestra tóxica. And then get my other one here. All right, and if you are looking for the deschooling diary, actually this one is in Spanish too, Diario de Desescolarización, and I'll put the English one in a second. Hold on, I gotta find it. Where is my deschooling diary? Actually, I'll share this with you too. This is, I'm gonna share with you, this is my list of like my top favorite unschooling resources. I'll share with you all of my top favorites. So feel free to click on that link and you can take a look at those. Those are all the books that were so helpful for me. I love reading. And these books were really made a big difference in helping me understand what it means to be an unschooler, how to really embrace self-directed education. And I know this books will be a huge help for you too. All right, someone said I need help logging onto the PAX Academy website. Okay, if you need help logging onto the PAX Academy website, just hang out afterwards and I'll help you do that. All right, for the rest of you, adios. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I look forward to seeing you all next month. I'm going to stop the recording here.